By strange coincidence, there were two little movies around, both of which have real in the title. Lars and the Real Girl, and Dan in Real Life. And whether one or the other is real or not is a very interesting topic, perhaps even a topic for debate.
Lars is about a young, lost soul, sort of, Ryan Gosling, who's absolutely brilliant, who sends away for an absolute, anatomically correct doll, large doll.
A sex doll.
Sex doll, which he does not use for that purpose. And her name is Bianca. And he takes her into his life and turns out the life of the community. I love the movie. I thought it had so much real emotion in it. It reminded me of Harvey. And Harvey, for those who do not remember, was a story of Jimmy Stewart, who has an invisible rabbit that he takes everywhere with him. And the people in his community want to lock him up for having this delusion. In this movie, the community bands together to believe his delusion. They help him recover from a sad and lonely life.
I found the movie quite devoid of emotion myself.
Oh.
Absolutely devoid of emotion. I was very disappointed in the movie. I thought the idea of preserving illusions is a very honored one in American thing. Tennessee Williams, you get that in The Glass Menagerie,
yes.
In The Streetcar, in the plays of Eugene O'Neill, The Necessity of Illusions. Delusion to me is quite different from illusion. I mean, I thought this town was just remarkably stupid. And I didn't think that he was recovered at all at the end, to tell you the truth.
I believed it entirely, in a kind of Capra-esque way, or that people would band together to try and help him.
Lots of luck.
Lots of luck?
If you believe that. The required thing in a plot of a movie like that is one person who doesn't believe it, tries to destroy his illusion, incidentally. There was one guy who muttered a bit in the movie about it, but that should have been the big
conflict.
It should have been the conflict. That at least would make it more human. I thought Sam was going to rape Bianca, actually. The doll, that's what I would have done if I'd written it. I had a horrible thing with one of these town thugs, who didn't believe and wanted to show that he didn't believe it, seized her and raped her. And what would Lars have done then? I don't know. That would have been a different movie, I agree. It wouldn't have been so Capra-esque, but it would have been, to me, a much more exciting movie.
Did you like Ryan Gosling?
Yeah, I thought he was very good. He reminded me a lot of Peter Sellers in Being There.
Good comparison.
He was very, very much like that. There was a movie 4 years ago which had the identical plot called The Love Object. Another lost soul bought a love doll. Actually bought it from the same website. It's called realdoll.com if anybody wants to look it up. And you'll be quite shocked at the verisimilitude you can get. The pubic hair even, you can choose among 6 different types of pubic hair and whatnot. And these are very realistic dolls. These are the kinds that sea captains used to take with them in the whaling days.
Is that really true?
Of course it's true. That's what they were designed for. They were made for that. They were called captains' wives. Anyway, in this other movie, The Love Object, it takes a horror turn, and it ends in bloody murder and gore. But this, to me, is a more logical extension of this idea. Then it's so goody, everybody is helping this delusion about this poor guy.
And the other picture that we saw was called Dan in Real Life. What did you think about that one?
I thought it was wonderful.
I loathed it.
I hate to say this. I find it hard to be a friend of anybody who didn't like that movie for the rest of my life. I think...
If that is the category that I'm in, Lorenzo, then maybe we should say goodbye now.
Maybe we should, because this movie there are movies you just don't get, and they're all of the same type.
How can you get this cliche-ridden story?
This was a very adult European movie. It's been coming. This is a highly European movie, the way it's done. The story is extremely simple. There's this guy that Steve Carell, I believe it is, plays. He goes to a family reunion.
Yeah.
And on the way there, in a bookstore, he runs into Juliette Binoche. They fall in love instantly, love at first sight. And he goes to the house for the reunion and finds out, to his great dismay to both, that she is engaged to his brother. Yes. That's the story, as simple as that. And how do they deal with this situation? It's a comedy of awkwardness. It's an awkward situation they try to make the best of. There's very little contrivance in the movie.
There's not a real moment in that whole movie. not a real moment of any kind.
Well, you've never fallen in love at first sight, obviously. And so I found the entire movie touching and real. These two people were very real, and they were struggling how to deal with the situation without hurting anybody. They were the victims. The ancient Greeks and Romans both believed when you fell in love violently, it could only lead to a bad end. And unlike the sugar-coated American movie where, oh, goody, we've fallen in love.
But you know they're going to be together again at the end, so what is the big surprise?
This, to me, was real people, but for some reason, Marcia didn't...
They're not real.
Well, to you, they're not. To me, they're absolutely real. They're not your people, they're my people.
I know you like rich white people. There's not one discussion about a job, about, I know you hate to hear the war, about life in America, sickness, nothing.
That's not what this movie is about.
It's not about anything but a fake reality is what it's about.
It's extremely well directed and extremely well done. In other words, it's not that they touch each other or do anything. Just everybody senses, particularly the mother, senses that these people are hopelessly in love. And my God, what are we going to do about this awkward situation? I think Steve Carell I think he's wonderful in this kind of part. He manages to be very funny without any overt things or any pratfalls. Juliette Binoche is so absolutely adorable, as she has been ever since The Unbearable Lightness of Being.
I think you just liked her.
I liked everything about the movie.
The youngest daughter of Steve Carell, he never permits her, that's the arc of the film. She can't drive the car, and we gather she must have a learner's permit, and yet at the end of the film, I don't want to describe, he loses his license. He gives her the key to the car that she'll drive so they can go find Juliette Binoche and love will triumph. As I remember the law, that's how unhappy I was.
This is Sheriff Marcia talking now. She wants
that you're not permitted to drive a car unless there's a licensed person in the car. I mean, nothing made sense.
Everything in the movie made sense to me. I strongly recommend people see it for themselves. And I would guarantee that 90% of the people who see it will like it and have liked it.
My yoga class, where I consider all of them real moviegoers who go in the afternoon, they've seen Lars and the Real Girl, and they loved it.
They would.
Okay.
Aged yoga class to me is a horrifying concept.